This is episode number 295 of the Homeowners Show. Whether you're a DIY or looking to hire, we're here to help you find the best information and options for you and your home. My name is Kevin Hackett, and here with me is Craig Williams.
Hello, and welcome to the Homeowners Show. We are so glad you could join us for another live episode here in the studio. How you doing, Kev?
Well, I'm just glad we're here right now.
I know how you're doing. It was an empty question. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, it's been an interesting night here at the Homeowners Show. We've been trying all kinds of new interesting things, and nothing has changed.
Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. We thought we could be innovative and cool, and
we thought wrong.
Let me tell you all something. It is not easy to do a show like this.
It's not.
I mean, and we had some issues with our live episode a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it made us like go into evaluation mode on some of our gear. Mm-hmm. And we have good gear. Like we have probably way better gear than most other podcasts.
Yes.
And that's not like being bragging or anything like that. It's just like we have good gear.
Yeah.
And it's just frustrating when your stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it like the audio went down 30 minutes into the show and we lost a lot of good conversations.
Yeah.
So,
well, and on top of that, we chose, this was a choice.
Uh-huh.
We chose not to record that one on site.
To have a redundancy recording. We recorded it. We just recorded nothing.
Right.
for like 2.5 hours.
But so far we have audio. It looks like.
Yeah, it looks,
so
we look good.
We'll see.
In other frustrating news, I got a little toy in my pocket here.
What is this?
Let's see here. Here we go.
Oh my goodness. What? Oh.
So in other frustrating news, here's the official Dove report.
Yes.
For South Central Texas.
Uh-huh.
It sucks out there.
The doves are non-existent.
Or highly intelligent.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's not the truth. So they've just decided, here's what's happened. They've decided it's way too hot over there.
Dude,
I'm not going to.
Here's the thing, man. Like opening day was on Sunday. I didn't get to go that morning, but I went that evening. And then I went again the next morning and the next evening.
Yeah.
And we got skunked. Yeah. I think the whole time we were there saw maybe 7 birds.
Oh my goodness.
And like if you've ever been dove hunting, like you're used to taking like 10 to 15 a day.
Sure. Like
that's your harvest. That's your state legal limit is 15.
Right.
And
it's not terribly difficult to get there if you're a decent shot.
No.
Yeah.
Especially if there's birds.
Well, that is a prerequisite.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so and we're out on a lease and we've got access to like 1,000 acres or something like that. And so I'm getting frustrated. I took my kids. This was like my kids all together first hunting trip.
Right.
And I'm wanting it to be like a good experience. They had a blast, by the way.
Sure.
Like we made it as fun as we could. We took them out to eat during the day. And we did all the fun like hunting stuff.
As you should.
And but I was getting frustrated, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the ATV. I'm gonna drive over to some of the other lease spots, and I'm gonna see what's going on. I heard there were some. I heard lots of gunshots to the east of us.
Okay.
And I don't know if all those guys were just shooting at Chi-Chi birds, or what.
They're just testing the rifles.
Could be. I mean, but like more than likely they saw some dove. Maybe there was a good spot and we just didn't have it. But everybody that I talked to. Everybody is getting skunked.
Man.
So now I saw, there's the guys that get on Facebook and they post their tailgate full of dove and, and they probably had like a food plot and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
But like, dude, it sucked. It just sucked. And like, and I had like the worst, like the one time I get, when there's no birds flying, you're like, man, I just wish one would fly by.
Sure.
So I could take a crack at it.
Sure.
And so we had moved over to this other field and I was like, I'm going to walk the fence line because there was nobody else there. And I'm going to see if there's any birds like, sitting down in the grass or perched on the fence or anything like that. So I'm walking down the fence line and this one flies up in front of me. And so I take a shot at it and I miss it. And he goes flying over the fence and I'm like, well, he gone.
Right.
And so I'm watching him, just kind of like, well, this is kind of fun. I actually get to see a dove.
Sure.
So he flies like 60, 70 yards away and then does like a 180 bank and then comes back across in front of me, not even flying that fast, like just kind of like, just cruising along.
Was his middle feather up?
Yeah, might as well have been, because I was like, all right, cool. I took 2 more shots at him, still missed him. And it's like, these are shots that I make like all the time. And it's like, while my daughter's watching me, and I'm like, I just walked back to her and I was like, Dad sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, just so you know. Couldn't even get the one.
And it was taunting
and it was
me
like,
on the way by.
It was like the one dove with a suicide wish.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, he's like, come on, man. Couldn't you get the...
What are you going to do over there, old man?
Couldn't you get the job done? It's like, you had one job.
One job.
Kill me. Couldn't make it happen. I'm going back, though. I'm going back. It's always fun. Man, anytime out in the woods is a good day.
It is a good day, yeah.
So,
for sure.
But, so let's do our sponsors.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
We got some news stories to get in. We're going to talk about homeowners insurance and all the nonsense happening there. Who we got up first?
Well, let's start with Lone Star Appliance Repair.
Lone Star Appliance Repair.
They're awesome, man. Like we were at our last show. We were sitting there talking to one of the head maintenance guys, or the head maintenance guy, and it's just really great talking with him. And I'm sad that we
missed that.
Lost all of that, because what he was talking about was gold. And basically he said, look, there's so many things that you can fix and that you should fix. And one of the big ones that I just thought, we've talked about this before, but I want to talk about it again, is that so many times whenever an appliance goes out in your kitchen specifically, most people have purchased kitchen appliances to match. Mm-hmm. And so if you have this desire to just replace your appliances, but they're not going to match.
No.
Because those manufacturers, they're making new stuff every year like every other manufacturer out there. So it's going to look a little different. It's going to have a little different, feel to it. It's going to look, the finishes aren't going to be the same. The handles aren't going to be the same. The logo's probably going to be in a different place. All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And most people that come over to your house probably aren't going to notice, but you're going to notice.
You're going to notice.
It's going to be a lot easier if you will just call the appliance repair person. They will come out, and most of the time they're going to be able to fix it for cheaper, and get you, hooked back up pretty quickly.
Really, the thing that gets expensive on the repairs is like the computer boards and stuff like that.
Yeah,
those are the parts. But like if it's if it's other things other than like that computer on a lot of new appliances, it's relatively cheap to repair.
And a lot of those are repairable too, or replaceable.
They are.
Yeah,
they're just expensive parts.
They are.
So and there's no getting around it. I mean, like you can get them from one spot and one spot only, and they know it.
Right.
But if you want to, if you want the people who are going to treat you right in the midst of something horrible happening to your appliance, this is the great company to call, Lone Star Appliance Repair. You can reach them at 936-647-2364.
Perfect.
Give them a call. Guys, also we have
True Texas Solar.
True Texas Solar.
They're the ones. And I actually, we just put a reel up about this the other day. I think I was talking about it. And the thing I love about True Texas Solar is they are the leader in the area. In fact, I was talking to the owner, Josh, the other day, and he was telling me that there was another business that was saying, hey, in the North Houston area, or really the Houston area in general, if we were to look for like the best company to partner with, this was another business, the best company to partner with for solar, who would it be? And everyone they talked to was like True Texas Solar. Those guys are doing it right.
Yeah.
And now they've added roofing as well. So they can take care of you from A to Z, all your roofing needs, all your solar needs, battery backup needs,
all your top home coverings.
Yeah. I mean, everything that you need is exactly, I mean, it's what we need. So take care of your home's energy source by working with True Texas Solar.
Yeah, and I just a quick reminder, everybody, because it's not just solar that they can provide you with. They also, have the whole home battery backup systems as well as redundancy generator systems.
Yeah.
Whole home generators. They can do those as well. And so, like, they can provide just a full suite of home energy independence for you. And who doesn't like not being at the teat of a tyrannical government?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's actually some pretty cool new solar stuff coming out. I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen were you with us or when we were talking about the new technology that's been developed that's like super thin solar panels?
I don't know.
Like you could literally like a wrap on a car. You could make solar.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's that thin. It's very pliable, very workable. And they were talking about you can literally put it on a wrap on a car or
That's super
anything.
cool.
Yeah, so there's some really cool technology coming out. Who knows what all that looks like? But
So could it be like almost like a membrane that you would put like on a metal roof? I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so now you're basically putting. It's almost like you would put a tinting film on a window, or you could literally just wrap your roof with this stuff.
Yeah.
And someone's developed this technology, and apparently it's super, like 2
wanna test drive
millimeter.
it.
Like I think they said it's like 2 microns thick or something like that. Like super thin. But it would adhere to just about anything, and more efficient. So we'll see. I don't know. But if you're interested in solar, want to learn more about solar, give them a call. True Texas Solar, 936-286-8325.
Awesome. Yeah, give all of our sponsors some love. Go like their social media, but give them a call.
Let them know that we sent you.
Yeah. So anyway, this episode, I called Kevin earlier today, and I was like, hey man, I think we need to talk about this because I was listening to the PBD podcast, and Patrick, David, and Tom over there were talking about some of the homeowners insurance stuff that are coming up in California, because both of those guys used to live in California and they used to be in the insurance business in California. And so I think they have their heads wrapped around straight on this thing. Now, you could say that they're probably biased because they were in the insurance business, but they had some things to say.
It also means that they probably know more than you and I do.
Yeah,
right.
They are closer to the pulse of the insurance business in California for sure, because they still consult in that business. But anyway, here's the thing that the factual bit of it that actually sparked a news story out of the Wall Street Journal is that State Farm announced back in March of 2024 of this year that it would not renew around 72,000 homes and apartment policies in California.
Now, we've talked about, before you continue, we've talked about the fact that there are places that are trying to cancel roof insurance policies and try to segregate some things.
And that's already happening in Texas.
Right. But that's not what we're talking about here. They're just canceling the homeowners policy altogether.
Not renewing them.
Which, by the way, if you have a mortgage, you are required to carry homeowners insurance. If you don't have a mortgage, I assume you can get around it, but why would you not? But still, you have most everyone that owns a home has a mortgage.
Right. And so the question you need to ask yourself is, and 72,000, in the big scheme of things is not that much.
Right.
It's only affecting 2% of policyholders in the state.
Right now.
Okay. So, and that's an excellent word to use, Kev, because I think that's what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
And so this is almost like a signal, right? Mm-hmm. So what I think everybody needs to understand is there's a reason that they're doing this. They're not doing it to just pick on 72,000 people.
Sure.
There's a business reason that this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like anytime you want to figure out what's going to happen in college football, just watch the NFL. Anything you want to know what's going to happen in high school football, watch college football. It's a trickle-down effect.
Absolutely.
It starts at the top, and eventually Little League is doing it, right? Or, Pop Warner or whatever you're calling it, right? So this is what you're talking about. Right now, it's affecting these people.
2% of 2% of policyholders in the state of California.
Right.
And my prediction is it's going to begin to affect more insurance policyholders in California.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing people need to understand is not renewing policies is one thing. Many insurance companies particularly in hazardous areas to live of different states, because we're going to get into Florida here in just a minute, because in Texas is affected by both of these. But excuse me, there are insurance companies that are quietly saying that they're not going to write any new policies
Interesting.
in those states.
Are they? But are they canceling these outright before the renewal?
So that's a totally different thing.
Okay.
That's a totally different thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and so you have both happening at simultaneously.
Jeez.
So you have, and I'm going to get into why I think this is happening here in a minute, because there's some numbers that correlate that I think are pretty interesting. I did a little bit of a deep dive on this. I'm by no means an expert, but I was just kind of like following the cookie crumbs, and I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? Oh, isn't that interesting? Not writing new policies is totally different than not renewing policies.
Okay.
So you have like companies like Allstate, right?
Right.
Allstate, I think it was last year, and I'll have see if I think I have this right here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, in California, I think this is right. Someone can fact check. I think it's in California, but Allstate quietly stopped writing new homeowners, condo, and commercial policies last year. So while maintaining the policies they'd already written, which I think is a good ethical and moral thing for them to do, they wrote the policies and the people have paid the premiums. So they're honoring those, but they've said like, no, don't write any new ones.
Man.
So, but like things like that have a massive economic trickle down.
Oh, sure.
Because if you don't know, like insurance agents don't make most of their money on residuals.
Right.
They make money on writing new policies.
Right. That's it.
That's how they make their commissions. That's how they make their bonuses. That's how these guys make their money.
Right.
And so like if you're an Allstate agent in the state of California,
Man.
like
You might as well find another job.
and that's the thing, man, is like when people are like, well, I don't understand why so many people live in California. Really? Like here's just another thing to add to the list. Like if you're an insurance agent and you live in California and you're with Allstate, you have two choices. You can move over to another brokerage,
Right.
or you can go to another state.
Right.
Or if you're a good Allstate agent, why wouldn't they move you to another state?
Right.
I mean, because you could technically keep your book of business in California open, but like, hey, why don't you go to Ohio?
Right.
We have we don't have wildfires in Ohio.
Right.
And so you're a great saleswoman. Why don't you go there and start a new brokerage and sell a bunch of homeowners policies?
Yeah.
And they'd probably eat it up with a spoon. Now, it's not as pretty
Sure.
as California. Sorry,
No.
Ohio.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're just not. You have other good qualities. Someone still wants to invite you to the prom.
Right.
But you just won't be the king.
Right. You won't be the first pick.
It's but this is what's happening, right? And so like, but the reason I was listening to PBD about it is because he was talking about part of the reason that this is happening, and it's a multi-layer issue, right? And most problems are like, if we look at any issue, I think in the United States, it's never just going to be like, oh, it's that.
It's not black and white.
It's not. It's not that person. It's not this. There's usually like a lot of things happening.
Sure.
Some are bigger than others, but anyway, what they got on was price controls, and they started talking about price controls because that's come up in this election cycle because Kamala has been talking about putting in price controls on groceries.
I've heard this.
And I'll here's what I'll say about price controls on groceries. Do you know the price? Do you know the profit margin for most grocery stores on average? Percentage wise.
I'm sure it's not super high.
If you had to guess, what would you think it is?
Oh, geez. Maybe 15%?
15%?
Yeah.
1.6.
Oh, geez. See?
1.6 on average.
I mean, and by the way, restaurants aren't much better.
No.
The food industry in general is not doing great on, it's not like people are raking it in.
You want to see some scary numbers? Look at the number of chain restaurants that are closing across the country.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of those restaurants, so I'm like,
Sure.
I'm not like
Heartbroken.
But I know I'm not heartbroken over those restaurants not being there anymore. What I am heartbroken about is the people that no longer have a job.
Sure.
Because those restaurants have closed.
Right.
The people that depend on that income in order to take care of their families.
Well, and some people, and look, whether you frequent those places or not, there are people that their date nights are at those places.
Right.
And for those people, they need those places too.
Yeah. Well, and look, Outback Steakhouse, not my favorite steak, not even what I would consider a great steak.
Yeah.
Right? But there are people that make good money serving tables at Outback Steakhouse.
Absolutely.
Because of the mid-range restaurants, it's one of the upper ones.
It is.
If you have the choice between Outback Steakhouse and a Chili's, again, there's nothing wrong with these, but Outback's just going to be considered a more upscale date night
between the two.
Right. And so waiters and waitresses can make pretty good money at an Outback because, if you're going in there for a date, you're probably going to have a bottle of wine. You're probably going to have a couple of steaks. You're probably going to have an appetizer. There's probably going to be a dessert.
It's going to be $100.
Yeah, easy.
And
so all that to say, here's what's happening. And so there is the California Fair Plan. Have you heard of this?
No.
Yeah, this is some weird stuff.
I can't imagine it's going to be fair, but let's get into it.
Okay, so this was actually a plan that was voted in over 50 years ago in the state of California.
Oh.
Okay. And, so here's what it says. The Fair Plan's mission is to protect consumers. The Department of Insurance, led by Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara, exercises oversight under California law to make sure the Fair Plan addresses the changing needs of Californians. Okay? And here's what Commissioner...
because Californians are like, our needs are different today than they are yesterday.
Right.
They're always changing. Anyway, go ahead.
He says, this is Commissioner Lara, I am using my oversight to make sure all Californians have options for coverage that meet their needs. While the Fair Plan has a long history of protecting consumers, it must continue to respond to climate change and future threats. Okay? And so if you get into their website... Okay, let's get into this. And so this is when the numbers become interesting. The Fair Plan is available to California residents and businesses in urban and rural areas who cannot obtain insurance through a regular insurance company. Okay? So technically, they're an insurance provider.
Oh.
Right? As of 2020, the Fair Plan covers less than 3% of residents. Meaning more than 97% of Californians have a competitive option for insurance.
They're contradicting themselves here, right?
Right. But wait. How many policies did State Farm affect by pulling out of California?
How many? I don't know.
2%.
Wow. Okay, that's not even that many. Well, it's a lot of people, but it's not necessarily a large percentage.
So here's my question. Who is State Farm most concerned about not having to cover with these unrenewed policies? It's the 3%
of the Fair Plan.
Of the Fair Plan.
Yeah. But they
assume,
pulled out lock, stock, and barrel.
Just on those 72.
On those 72.
Right. And so it's just those. And so I would assume the other 1% are being covered by other insurance companies. But they were the biggest. So what they're saying is we are dropping our riskiest clients.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And if you read, if you continue, so the Fair Plan back in 64 or I don't know, when was it enacted?
Yeah. I don't remember what you said.
It says it's been around for 50 years.
50
I think it's
years, so 70-something. 73, 74.
Anyway, it's been around a long time.
Yeah.
So what it was initially put in place for was exactly for what it said, right? It's available to California residents and businesses in urban and rural areas who cannot obtain insurance through a regular insurance company. Why wouldn't they be able to obtain insurance through a regular insurance company?
Maybe their house.
You ever had to apply for insurance?
I haven't.
Everybody does.
Well, I guess on some level, but
it's just so easy for most people.
Yeah, most people can get it.
But why wouldn't an insurance company offer coverage?
Well, there would be a lot of reasons. It could be the house in good enough shape. It's the area that it's in. It's in a high crime area. It's it's a high hazardous area because of earthquakes or because of I don't know, there's tons of reasons why people wouldn't be insurable as far as that goes.
Right. And so what the FAIR plan does is it forces insurance companies
to take those policies. And so State Farm's going, nah, screw that.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
out. Because and
not only that, the FAIR plan sets the rates.
Oh. So they don't have So State Farm's losing money every time they have to sign one of these policies.
They're setting the rates, and they're also setting the coverage limits. And so
which means that State Farm's having to pay out on stuff they don't even want to pay out on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in 2019, Commissioner Lara raised the limits for residential to $3 million.
Oh.
And raised the commercial to $20 million.
And I'm sure she had to raise them somehow.
Ricardo.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had to.
They're sensitive about that stuff in California.
I know. Sorry. So many things to say.
One day we might want to have him on the show.
I doubt it.
Saying.
I doubt it. She won't come. But so
definitely not now.
but the price of houses have to go up at some. I mean, they're going up. I'm sure the rate.
That's the excuse that they're using.
I'm sure it is. But $3 million. Okay, $3 million
in coverage
in coverage on a home that's uninsurable. I doubt it.
Right.
I doubt it. We're probably talking apples and oranges here. I will say this. And I'm not defending insurance companies, but if you really want to figure out, I mean, insurance companies are in business to make money.
We assume.
And for themselves. They're in the business for themselves.
Absolutely.
And so
it's a business.
It is a business. And it's equally a business decision to go, look, this isn't working for us.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to make the choice. Do I stay in a situation where we're losing money, or do we make a choice to pull out? And ultimately, sometimes business decisions suck, but you have to make them.
Yeah.
So, again, not defending them, but would you have done something different if you owned State Farm?
Yeah.
I don't think I would.
Well, and it's not just home insurance, it's also auto insurance.
Oh.
Apparently that's getting increasingly more and more difficult
because of all those EVs there. I mean, they're not going to be able to buy a vehicle that isn't electric in next year? No, 2026, I think it is. In California, you're not going to be able to buy any vehicle that's not electric.
So this is a quote from Mike Dorelli. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He's the executive director of the American Agents Alliance. He says the withering availability of auto and home insurance in the state, California is what he's talking about, seems headed for a death spiral. Never in my career have I heard from so many insurance agency owners and consumers desperate to buy auto or home insurance, yet unable to purchase it due to a lack of availability.
I love this. It's like supply and demand somehow.
Oh.
It's like oh, you ran out of them?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know why? Because we're not writing anymore. That's what it turns out to be.
And so like you have big companies, big name brand companies.
Yep.
State Farm, Allstate, no longer writing any new policies in California.
Jeez.
And do you know the reason that they're pointing to?
Is it the hazard stuff that they're canceling stuff across the nation for?
It's weird, man. So what they'll do is they'll say, well, we've had too many catastrophes, and it's all because of climate change. And so climate change has caused the forest fires.
Oh, okay.
And so they're able to have like this boogeyman.
Yeah, because
of climate change.
Yeah, because forest fires have never happened before the climate change in California.
Not only that, man, like you have states with really dumb policies when it comes to fire. States like California and Colorado. Mm-hmm. And like I've actually read some about this. Like they don't do any controlled burns in those states.
No.
And historically, controlled burns have been done in order to prevent massive forest fires.
Yep.
And unless they've changed things recently, which I doubt they have, because it's not considered like super cool and hip to like do a control burn.
Right.
But like that tends to be what causes when you do a control burn so that you don't build up all of that thatch.
Right.
That causes fires to sustain when they
spread.
become big.
Yeah, because if you've ever even watched like a fire show, like one of the ways that you stop a fire from continuing to burn is to cut a line around it to where it literally has nothing to burn.
Right.
And that's part of what you're doing in controlled burns. You're making it to where the burn cannot spread as quickly. And so if you're not giving yourself that, I mean, here's the deal. At my house, I live on acreage. You do too. At some point, you got to cut your grass. Even in places that you're like, I don't have to cut that more than a couple times a year, but I got to cut it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, it's going to get overwhelming, which is exactly what happens in a lot of these places we have forest fires.
Yep.
So figure out a way to take care of the situation so it doesn't get out of control. But in those scenarios, what happens is now you're uninsurable because you're in an area where we're unwilling to do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
It's a big problem.
And now we're having to have this conversation about people not being insurable.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, guess what can happen if you don't have insurance, on homeowners insurance, and you have a mortgage? The mortgage can drop you.
Yep.
For that alone. And if you have no control over getting insurance and your mortgage company drops you, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah.
You're going to lose your house.
Yeah. Well, and what's going to happen when California finally runs out all the reputable companies?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, like, really,
it's going to be like Uncle Harry, waltzing in there going, "I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'll insure these people."
This is the problem, is we're going to create the wrong kind of monopoly.
That's right.
And so like you're going to be forced to pay these guys who provide no service, who refuse to pay claims, and like they'll probably pass some sort of legislation that makes them pay something or another. But like,
sure,
they won't care.
No,
like it's going to come down to like two companies running the whole state of California, because everybody else that has any business sense is like, why would you do business there?
Well, because and with laws like this FAIR plan that you're talking about, which is fair to who?
Exactly. I mean, exclusively the consumer.
Exclusively the consumer. And I'll tell you right now, like, for people that own businesses, if your product is only valuable if the consumer wins, only the consumer wins.
Yeah, and you lose every time.
Then your product becomes useless.
Right.
And you will take it off the shelf. You will remove it from your service list. But if you don't have that option, what are you going to do? You're going to leave.
Right. And I think everybody can understand this pretty well when I said that, grocery stores' profit margin is typically like around 1.6.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason is that in grocery, there's a lot of waste. Not because they're wasteful. It's food. It spoils. Things get in it.
Yep.
Stuff happens. There's a lot of lost product.
Sure.
In between creation, packaging, and actual sale.
Sure.
And not only that, we're dealing with produce. Not all the produce sells, and so you have a lot of loss. It doesn't, like, those stores have to buy all that produce.
Right.
They don't just like,
and if it goes bad,
it's not on loan from the farmer.
No, you throw it away.
You throw it away.
That's right.
And that's a loss.
Yep.
And so like that, I think that's why their profit margins are so.
Dude, I opened up yesterday a carton of sour cream.
Okay.
And it wasn't the expiration date on it was like October 3rd, something like that.
Okay.
It already had mold in it.
Oh, it suck.
And I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
Like, and that quality control from the manufacturer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I wound up, just because I don't care, I just scraped it off and got the stuff underneath it, But there's going to be some people that are going to take that back.
Yeah.
And they're going to want their money back. And what is the store supposed to do?
Give it to them.
Give it to them.
Or give them another thing.
Exactly. And what are they going to do? They're going to throw that away.
Yep.
And they've just lost all that money.
Right. And so, but here's what I'm talking about. So, and just assume that I'm right, that it's 1.6. It could be
1.7.
1.7. Let's just
Wait, it's not like you and I don't have a friend who might
know a little something about
manage
this.
a fairly large grocery store.
Let's be generous and say that it's 2%.
Okay.
And someone comes in and says, you know what? I'm implementing price controls on all groceries.
Okay.
Right? You can't charge more than this amount for a gallon of milk. You can't charge more than this for a loaf of bread. You can't charge more than this for a pound of ham. Right? And so they just go through and they do that because this is what should be an affordable price for food. Right? we all know exactly what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, you have to buy that from a distributor, and the distributor gets it from the manufacturer. This is the way that happens.
The distributor's prices aren't going to change.
They're not going to change. You're going to pay the same price, because the distributor has to make money, and they're getting the product from the manufacturer. And guess who's going to make money? The manufacturer. So the manufacturer's got to make money, the distributor's going to make money, and the grocery store has to make money. But if the grocery store has to sell it for a certain price, they're the end of the line.
So one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to drop the product,
Yep.
or the government's going to start subsidizing the cost of food. And we all know how that goes.
Well, I'll just tell you, we wind up in a completely different form of government at that point.
Well, we create a massive bubble that's unsustainable because the government doesn't have any money.
No. Well, they can print more.
They can look. This is always the solution, right? We'll just print more.
Right. But it happens daily,
every day.
Yeah.
But like this is what I'm talking about, and this is now happening with the insurance business. Is because California is coming in and saying, look, insurance policies need to be at this price.
Yeah.
And they need to be able to cover this much.
Yeah.
And if you can't get insurance through a regular provider, we're going to provide you with insurance.
Right.
Right? Here's the other sneaky thing that I learned is the reason that this actually works for them. What do governors do every time there's a natural disaster?
They trot themselves out in front of a camera and start talking about how they're going to take care of everybody.
And what do they ask the president to do?
Come in and
they ask them to make a declaration, right?
Declaration, yes. It's a war. It's a natural
disaster.
Natural disaster.
Why do they do that?
Because so that the insurance can take care of all the people.
No. It's so that it opens up FEMA.
Oh, FEMA. So the government has to take care of it, so the insurance doesn't have to.
Because as soon as the president makes it a natural disaster,
and FEMA is involved.
The state then begins receiving federal money.
Yeah.
And so they can now fund their FAIR Act through FEMA. They can get all that money, and the state will go, hey, FEMA, don't even worry about it. We got a way to distribute everything and get everything. We already have the system in place. And so like it's like they are funding these weird bureaucracies that aren't even necessary. It's like, let insurance companies be insurance companies.
Right.
Let the market do its thing. Let the cheap guy be the cheap guy. Let the expensive guy be the expensive guy, and let it all come out in the wash.
And so, by the way, and again, we do our very best not to necessarily take strong political viewpoints on the show, but I will say this because we have opinions. But I will say this: who you vote for matters.
Yeah,
because
there are consequences.
There are consequences. And honestly, there's a lot of people out there that are going, look, I'm not one of the people that's probably going to be affected by the FAIR Act. Like I can afford my homeowners insurance. I can do things on my own. And those same people many times would say, I care about the person who can't.
Right.
I do care about those people. Now, how do I help them? I feel helpless. I can't just help everybody.
Right.
And honestly, to help one person's like thousands and thousands of dollars. How can I actually help them? But I do care. I wish they weren't in a scenario where they feel completely entrapped, right?
Right.
You can choose who you vote for.
Yeah.
And you can choose how the person that you elect actually is going to take care of things because you voted for them.
Yeah. I think, but I think we're also witnessing the amount of despair that people, or at least the faith that they have in their vote counting. Because I think what we're seeing is a lot of people moving to areas where they feel like their values are represented.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the mass migration that you see from California, from New York, to places like Texas, Tennessee, and Florida.
That's right.
And that's not to like degrade anybody's political view. It's like, I think there are conservative people living in California and New York that are just done with having to live in those regimes that are not going to change anytime soon.
No.
And so they're like, I'd rather relocate and go to Texas, Tennessee, or Florida and find new people.
Right.
And I can't tell you the number of times I've read, it's like, I've been in California for 60 years and I finally had enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, good Lord.
We finally enough.
Look, I meet some people, I'm done in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. Your pain tolerance is higher than mine.
You're a better man than me.
That's right.
But anyway, so here's kind of the last bit of this is big news story not too long ago. This was back in July, but it came as much of a lot of relief to homeowners in Florida as State Farm decided to stay in Florida. And Farmers Insurance completely pulled out of Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so it was like Farmers pulled out, but like State Farm was like on the fence and they decided to stay. And I think it had like a lot of negotiations going on with DeSantis.
Sure.
But it was a big deal. It was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Because you lose those two and like you're down to next to nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
and here's the thing, man, is like in Florida, I don't know that you have anything like the fair. And when you lose two big ones like that and you don't have price controls in place, what are the ones that are left going to do? Well, they're going to jack their prices up.
They have to.
They have to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think a lot of people don't understand is like the reason some of these insurance companies aren't writing new policies and want to move out of these states is because they're coming up against legislation that is forcing them to behave in ways that are contrary to their to the well-being of their business.
Right.
And so like it's not, and this is very much like the restaurant thing. Like we're going to run up against where you're not going to have any more good agents in the states in which you live because you're not allowing the business to operate. And what has happened, and again, this is part of like a bigger picture, you know, everyone got really excited about the places that they lived during the pandemic when the prices on their homes got jacked up.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yes.
And so even though the prices got jacked up, a lot of people's insurance policies didn't change.
Right.
And, well, the price of materials went up. The price of gas went up.
Yep.
Cost of living went up. And so an insurance company, when you live in a state like Florida where you have the potential for natural disasters, a hurricane can come in and blow your house down, what would have replaced your house 4 years ago
Doesn't anymore.
It doesn't anymore, but you're operating under that same policy. And so now the insurance company doesn't have the bandwidth to repair these homes because the cost of the materials is 3 to 4 times what it was before. The cost of the labor has gone up.
Yep.
Everything has gone up, and they're looking at it going like, oh my gosh, like if we have the same kind of policy claims that we did over previous years, like we're going to be upside down.
Right.
And like it doesn't take an idiot to look at that and go like, oh my God, because like, you know, you have the guy come out, the claims adjuster and all that kind of stuff comes out and looks and okay, what's it going to cost? What's this going to cost us? And those guys are independent. And so they're just feeding numbers back and forth. And you know, even though people look at them and go like, you work for the insurance company and you're just here to screw me.
No,
it's
they
like,
don't.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
They're not all nice people because they get booed and hissed at all day, but
Sure.
There's some good guys out there.
Sure.
But like they're just reporting back, and the insurance company is like, oh my gosh, like our costs on these policies has doubled, if not more.
Right.
So how can we sustain business? We can't.
No.
So it's more worthwhile for them to go, you know what? We're not going to do business in hurricane states. We're not going to do business
Yep.
in wildfire states.
Yep.
We're not going to do business in Tornado Alley.
Right.
I mean, I guarantee you they're looking at all the most high-risk areas of America and going like, look, we can make way more money
Yep.
by selling policies in the safest places in the states.
Yep.
And why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they? I don't know.
So
I would.
Yeah. And especially when you have states like California that are going like, well, you can be here, but you're going to operate under these. And so like you can't write policies that are going to be paying more than this, but they have to at least pay out $3 million.
Right.
It's
The policy dictates you have to.
yeah. The state's dictating that.
Well, I know, but I mean, you wrote the policy,
Yeah.
and so you're bound by it at that point.
So, and you know, in our business, what we've always said is like, whatever's happening in California, just know it's going to be here in 10 years. And I think that's true across a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
California is I think it's the biggest economy in the U.S. State to state, which is a weird one to me.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff out there,
But it's a
Silicon
huge,
Valley and
Silicon.
well, because so much of it is high dollar too.
Yeah, you're right.
So
Anyway, that's all I got for tonight, man.
yeah, me too. I think we're good. It's late
Yep.
here, so we're gonna end this, y'all. Thank you for hanging out with us, even if you are watching us live. We appreciate you very much. If you have not already found us on all of your favorite channels, YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, wherever you want to look at us, we're probably there. Thank you for hanging out. Leave us a 5-star rating review on Apple Podcast. Subscribe. Tell your friend about us. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.